Welcome to our next episode of our UMAC Lessons from Leaders series. We are delighted to have from the College of St. Scholastica, Chad Salmela with us today. Chad is the men's and women's cross country head coach. This is his fourth season leading the Saints programs, and he is a three-time UMAC Coach of the Year honoree, led the women's cross country team to 3 straight conference championships in the UMAC, so we really look forward to talking with Chad today. Chad, let's jump right in. You've had a very successful coaching career to this point, a lot of accomplishments. What stands out to you maybe as something you're most proud of or most special when you look back to this point as far as all that you've accomplished?
I think personally the biggest thing is I went to a wedding this summer of one of my former athletes, and I think that that kind of like summed it up for me. Like going to that wedding and seeing all the kids that were, this is from my skiing coaching years, and we had a whole group of skiers with, some of them are married to ex-teammates, to each other, and that was kind of like, for me, it was from an emotional standpoint, that was kind of a culmination of a decade plus of coaching at the collegiate level. Competitively, there's a lot of things. Some stand out more than others. I think the proudest thing I've accomplished as the ski coach at St. Scholastica was that we were basically unknown when we started, and in 10 years we were nationally competitive, and that's in a D1 environment. And I think that it's a unique. The UMAC doesn't really have an equivalent sport to the skiing realm because it's a pretty small sport. There's only 60-some schools with the sport. But we made a lot of progress in those 10 years, and it was a lot of hard work.
Sure.
So to see that pay off, we've had one NCAA All-American, D1 level All-American in that program, and that was certainly a feather in the cap, so to speak. But I think that to just sum it up as to that's the number one thing, that's obviously a thing that stands out. But I think that overall, building something from the ground up is something I really love to do, cross country has a long illustrious history here at this school. We have a national champion in Chelsea Johnson. We have numerous UMAC championships, so it's not building from the ground up. But I think trying to just build something off the back of what Steve Fingston did here for 23 years has just been really fun for me in general. And I think that the relationships I have with the athletes is probably the reason that keeps me coaching.
Sure. You talked about either building up a foundation for a program, the skiing program, or continuing to build off, as an example, cross country here that's had decades of success. Mm-hmm. What stands out to you when you think about a successful program and that foundation? Is it the core values? Is it the vision, a mission? What kind of jumps out to you as most critical to a program continuing or getting to a place of success?
I think every coach is going to approach that a little bit differently, and I don't know that I'm any more successful than anybody else, but one of the things that I think, especially at this age level, at this development level, from an athletic standpoint, it's not high school anymore. It's not just about participation. You have to kind of come in with some preparation as a student athlete. There's an expectation at the collegiate level that you do. For me, I think it all starts with respect, and I think the respect starts with me. I think the way that I try to interact with my kids, and I'm not perfect. I'm sure I've offended student athletes numerous times, sure. But I think the number one thing that I approach the job with is I operate from a foundation of respect to every single person on the team, and every coach gets frustrated knowing kids not trying their best, or maybe didn't do their best in the off season, or just didn't come in prepared, and tempering that attitude towards that student as a head coach, I think, is a really important place to start, because that trickles down even to your best athletes. If an athlete comes in or let's say there's somebody who's really talented and they just didn't do the work and didn't come in focused, that can be a problem as well. But I think finding that evenness and finding the equity in how you approach each student athlete as the head coach is really the foundation of respect. And I think that respect has to go across the board. And as soon as respect starts to become deteriorating, whether it's between athletes and athletes, or coaches and athletes, or with the entire team, then you start having disciplinary problems. You start having things unravel. And I've had things unravel, and I think you have to go through that to learn those things. And trying to keep any team from unraveling any season is probably the number one task of a head coach, because it's super easy. When you look at people's personalities, they're not going to be best friends. You can pull in a team of 50 people, you can pull a team of 5 together. And I was really good friends with some of them. When I was an athlete, I was on the national team, and some of them are lifelong friends, and some of them we don't talk today.
Sure.
But we had to find a way to work together and move forward and do our best. And I think in a team environment, and even though cross country isn't like basketball or soccer where we're making passes and working together, there's still a symbiosis that has to come from a team to be successful. And I think establishing that through respect is the fundamental job of the head coach to be successful.
Sure. Chad, one of the things that you'll hear sometimes is leaders talk about that they have a secret sauce or something that maybe they feel helps them, sets them apart from others. Maybe it's as simple as their organizational style for each day or how they approach, mentally a particular challenge. Is there anything for you that jumps out that you feel falls in that category of a secret sauce, or you kind of rely on that you've identified helps you be successful and continue to raise in terms of just your coaching level?
Yeah, I think that probably one of my calling cards and probably one of my curses is that I'm really technical. Sure. I'm super analytical. My mind analyzes constantly, which is probably why I do TV work as an analyst. And I analyze pretty much on the split second. And some of that analysis, I put people in the lab. We use our exercise physiology department, and they've been great at the school for both skiing and cross country, and we're doing the testing. And sometimes I can put a little too much emphasis on that, but I also think it's an advantage. I think that coming from an elite level sport and then coming down to a D3 coaching level, I have a bit of an advantage. That's probably one of the things that kids notice when they're looking at St. Scholastica. That's one of the things that I hang my hat on.
Sure.
But it's not always the best thing. I think that sometimes I can get a little bit too into the weeds with an athlete at this level. So I have to kind of temper that. I have to balance that with the student athlete experience, and that's the challenge. But I coached at the national team level when I retired as an athlete, and then I went to the high school level, and that was a big change. And I realized I didn't want to be a high school coach after 4 years of high school coaching, and then this job came here. And this is kind of the sweet spot, and I think even more of a sweet spot than being a D1 ski coach or a D1 running coach. I think I'm applying high-level sport things at the technical level, but I really enjoy the fact that the kids that are coming to my program are coming here because the right reasons.
Sure.
They want to be part of the program, they want to be part of the school, they may be like me as a coach. And I think that is an advantage that we as D3 coaches have over D1 coaches, that it's not about just recruiting.
Sure.
It's about having an experience and having those kids show up. So I think finding that balance between being technical and also being human is really the challenge I have, but I think those are probably, I'm very empathetic and sometimes sympathetic to a fault. I think that's also one of the things that I bring as a head coach that perhaps is one of my strengths.
Sure. So you talked about being involved at a national team level, also coaching high school, now college and Division III level. Talk about, maybe it was one or maybe there's two instances that come to mind, kind of those aha moments, maybe learning moments where you realize that, okay, coaching Division III is going to be different, or some of those moments where you look back and go, I grew, I learned, I'm better. Speak to one of those or two of those experiences.
I think in high school, when I was a high school coach, I realized that about mid-season of my first season, I started realizing that it's really not about what we're doing for training.
Sure.
It's really about creating an environment where kids enjoy what they're doing. And I think I did that to a reasonable level.
Sure.
But I had to go so far away from my background in those first 4 years of high school coaching that the issues that I dealt with, the hot button issues each year, my last season at the Marshall School, I had a disciplinary incident that really shocked me. It really shocked me, and that was my aha moment in high school. I was like, okay, this is not for me.
Sure.
But that was an aha moment for me. Like, I started realizing that high school kids they're just in it for different reasons, and that I was not the right fit for that.
Sure.
At the D3 level, I found the aha moment for me, I think, was right away my first year here. That when I started getting kids who came because they were being overlooked by other programs, and there were a lot of kids trying to get into D1 and D2 scholarship programs for skiing that weren't getting any looks. And I pretty much created an entire team here off of that kind of athlete. I got kids and nobody was willing to give a scholarship to, and we made them good.
Sure.
We made them scholarship level athletes by the time they graduated. And that was when I realized I saw some kids where there was just some hunger in the first 4 years. And then it kind of took off. But I started seeing that hunger and I realized, okay, these kids want this.
Sure.
And they want me to do everything I can to make them the best they can be. And that's when I realized this is a really great confluence of seriousness, but also of life learning. And I think when you look at when I was the national team coach, you have to coach people you don't even really like. And if they don't succeed, you lose your job.
Yeah.
and that's tough. That's a tough thing. Here, I think that this is a really nice mix at D3 of seriousness and life lessons, because most of these people aren't even going to maybe compete competitively as a skier or a runner after they graduate from here.
Sure.
So making those 4 years count, and they're a little more serious than the high school level. So those are as far as aha moments go, those are probably two of the big ones.
Sure. And the Division III, it seems, coaching role continues to change, evolve. All the different hats that you wear. What do you see looking, into the next 10 years? What will be some of the challenges for Division III coaches to continue being successful and continue, if they're having success now, sustain that, or to try to reach levels of success?
I think for me, and I think this probably rings true with a lot of coaches who will see this or maybe not even see this, I think that the communication style of the kids these days that we're recruiting has changed in 15 years drastically. The attention span, what they sink their teeth into. You hear a lot of people in my shoes complaining about it. I don't know how that's not going to change. It's incumbent upon us to change ourselves. And that's what I'm currently in the process of doing. I'm trying to figure out how kids want to be communicated with in the recruiting process, in the coaching process, because even if you get a kid who's really talented and you didn't communicate well with them coming in, they're going to leave your program after a year if you guys don't gel.
Sure. That's good wisdom from Chad. And again, we appreciate you taking time to be part of our Lessons from Leaders. Chad and the St. Scholastica Women's Cross Country program will try to make it 4 straight UMAC titles under his leadership later this fall. So thanks, Chad.
Thanks a lot.